Lakers, driven by your Southern California Honda dealers, Chris McGee, Robert Ory, James Worthy, Mike Bresnahan. Allie's going to join us here in a little bit. We'll hear from Mike Trudell covering the post-game locker room. The Lakers get blown out at home by the Timberwolves. Tonight it was a Minnesota team with some young legs riding a 6-game losing streak that came into Staples and dominated the second half. Rob, 63-34. Points in the paint, 56 to a season low 32 for the Lakers. And the Lakers have a new low in points scored in a game, Rob, 83.
You know, the law of averages always bite you in the butt. What I mean by that is Cat has been getting the best by AD. So AD got the best of Cat. Cat got the best of AD tonight. And that's what happens when you have a tendency to have a losing streak, like 6 games with a young team. You would think that they had a great opportunity because we held Edwards to 0 points, but nobody stopped Cat. Nobody stopped D'Angelo. And those two guys rose to the occasion. Now, you know, both of those guys have a lot to prove, especially D'Angelo. There's a team that got rid of him. There's a team where he really thought he could, you know, make his staple here, but he didn't. And then you had a guy like Cat, who's been talked about as one of the best players ever. You come out of Kentucky, now you go up into the guy who's actually one of the best players, and he showed his game tonight. And you have to come out each and every night and take everybody seriously. We always talk about that. And they had it in the first half, but that third quarter just got away from them.
Yeah, I was shocked. I was totally wrong because I thought the Lakers would come out and, you know, dominate after losing some games to Oklahoma, to some teams they should have beat. I thought they had learned their lesson, but you guys said it. You know, a team that was hungry. They hadn't won a game, and I thought the Lakers, you know, pretty much did a good job. You know, holding on to the lead. Carmelo makes that play at the end of the half, kind of gave
end of the first quarter.
Yeah, first quarter. I'm sorry, gave them a lot of momentum, and it was just not a good game for the Lakers. Just hard to understand. There's a lot of things to talk about. Points in the paint, not the inability to score. That third quarter was ugly.
We're gonna get to that in a few minutes.
So yeah, it was just not a good game for us.
Yeah, you know, not a lot of words to say. Rob, you mentioned the law of averages. Carmelo Anthony definitely felt that tonight. He had been red hot coming into this game. If you look at the totality of his season so far, he goes 1 for 12 tonight and 1 for 8 behind the arc, where he'd been so consistent over the season. Also, that third quarter, James, you know, Gita, I know you mentioned we're going to get to it. Lakers gave up 40 points. They scored only 12. It's one thing to give up 40 in a quarter. You know, that's going to happen. It's another thing if you score 12 in a quarter. That's going to happen too. But when it happens in the same 12 minutes, you're in big trouble.
So since Brez led us there, I'm going to show you something, Brez. You know how we exaggerate sometimes and we say it's one of the worst in history?
Yeah.
It really, truly was. The Lakers were outscored 40-12, as you said. The minus 28-point difference, Brez, is the largest third-quarter deficit for the Lakers since 1951.
No.
You weren't even thought of at that point. Karl Anthony Towns single-handedly outscored the Lakers 18-12 by himself in that third quarter. Rob, they didn't score for over 7 minutes in that quarter.
It's hard, and it's unthinkable that you cannot score in that large of a period of time. And it goes back to me, how the game is played now. There's no inside presence. It's most okay. I'm going to jack it up from the outside. Eventually one's going to fall. You know, that's the law of averages. That's what they want to play. But sometimes you need a go-to-the-basket type play. You need to go in and try to draw a foul. You need something to break that ice, because a 7-minute drought is unacceptable for a team that's trying to keep their home court advantage and try to move on and get a better record. And there's so many other things I could say about it, but you can't let that happen. You just can't.
40-12, big game.
Yeah, I mean, we could sit here and chitter chat all night. It was just ugly. They got outplayed. There's no energy. We talk about how, you know, they couldn't score, but they couldn't stop anybody either. Defensively, it's just a setback from the little trend that they had going back to embarrassing losses at home after a day's rest on a team that's, you know, depleted a little bit as far as their record, and they let them come in here and get a win. Unacceptable.
Yeah, this third quarter thing has really become an issue. in certain games this season for the Lakers. They go into the half with decent momentum, and it just kind of falls apart, right, and piles up at their feet. I mean, tonight was one of those nights. You could tell right away, D'Angelo Russell gets hot, and when he starts stroking, keep in mind, former All-Star in the Eastern Conference. He can put points together.
Yeah, it was a 20-2 run within the first 4.5 minutes.
Yeah, you knew right away
so
there's something wrong here.
And you mentioned third quarters. Lakers are the worst defensive team in the third quarter in the league, giving up 31 per, tonight 40. So that trend is not where you want to be, Brett.
31's bad to begin with. Even in today's modernized NBA where guys are, teams are scoring 115, 120 with pretty good regularity, giving up 31 in a quarter is bad. Add 9 to that, it's catastrophic. And we saw what happened tonight with the Lakers. I thought they had a good first half, too. But it just fell apart. One thing about Russell Westbrook, shot pretty well, 7 for 11. I like the efficiency there. But then you get into the turnovers. We talked about that a lot on these shows. 5 turnovers, more than canceled out. He only had 3 assists tonight. So not a lot of sharing for the Lakers, especially in that second half.
Well, it was a lot of sharing. It's just they weren't knocking down the shots.
Do that too.
They only shot 35% from the field, and that's hard on a team that doesn't really score in the paints when AD's not scoring on the inside like he was in the first half. So it's hard for a team to get buckets. You take the last game. Malik Monk was manufacturing points. You had Westbrook manufacturing points, and then I thought we were going to have a great stuff because Rondo was manufacturing points in the first half. You thought that would be a karaoke when Rondo scores. We win.
Yeah.
But somewhere down the line, when they got frustrated, and the Lakers have a tendency, when they get down, they start shooting threes. And they shoot threes in bunches. They start doing things out of character.
Hunting shots.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what gets them in trouble. Because if you go back and look at that run, they started shooting a lot of threes. They started turning it over. And they was capitalizing. Timberwolves was capitalizing on their mistakes.
Terrible from 3 tonight, just 9 for 41. You bring up a good point. Karl Anthony Towns happened in that third quarter. He only had 9 in the first half. He only had 1 in the second quarter. He had 3 fouls. He was struggling, but then big game, he came out and took it to the Lakers. Inside, outside, doing it all. 4 threes.
Yeah, I mean, we knew that he was totally capable of doing this. And, when there's no resistance, when you're not playing well or you're trying to get back in the game, I don't care if you're down 20 or 25. The only way you're going to get back in the game is defense. Yeah. You're not jacking up shots and trying to make threes is not going to help, even if you're making some of them. If you don't turn your defensive helmet on, and that's a hardcore job you got to do, it's not going to happen. And the Lakers are not turning their defensive thing on, shooting threes, trying to get back in the games by out-shooting someone. It just looks bad. It doesn't, yield anything, and they're not having any respect on the defensive end. So that, to me, that was the case. You're down, you're trying to shoot your way back in it instead of getting in somebody's face and locking them up.
When Kobe was a player, he had a funny phrase he would say for a game like this. He would say to the media, just flush it. The problem, guys, is the Lakers have already had some of those flush it type of games. You lost to OKC once with a massive, 25-point lead?
26-point.
26-point lead. Lost them again with a 19.